Since 2017, I've spoken with several lawyers across, areas of practice who has talked about several challenges within the judiciary. One of them is how that tech, or if you like, technology, can redefine practice for many of the professionals in this very important space. However, in the case of Nigeria, we see so many concerns, including peculiarities that are closely associated with our immediate environment. Now, the good news is, in very recent years, we're seeing professionals in this field also now beginning to advance how that it is important that going forward, technology must somehow, in some way, be integrated into the practice of law in this Nigeria by way of also ensuring that we meet up with global best practices. But what are some of the headwinds, and how much of efforts are we putting in already to ensure that there's some sort of quote-unquote handshake between the legal practice and technology in an era of artificial intelligence? That's our focus today on the program. We'll bring you the rest of it right after this break. Please stay with us. I'm Wiyag Mofwegwe, and with a delight, I welcome you to this edition of Scale of Justice. My guest is a legal practitioner, one who also has a handle on the thrust of our conversation today. I'm joined by Barrister Muhammad Abdulazeez, who will help us find some sense in this very timely conversation. I'd like to say a big thank you to you, Abdulazeez, for taking our time to jump on this conversation. But I want us to look at it from some concerns that your colleagues have also raised. They said, look, there's no doubt we need technology to drive what we do in the legal space. But they also talk about some of the peculiarities that we might have to confront in the case of Nigeria. Help us make sense of that.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's always a delight to be in the studio. Very quickly, to take you up on the issue of technology and the way we practice law in the country. Over the years, the practice is no longer what it used to be. Over the years, we have seen technological advancement and involvement in the way and manner we approach the justice sector, the judicial sector. Lawyers, of course, an average lawyer, as part of his tool, is a laptop. That is a given, or a computer system with which you are going to use to draft your processes and do legal researches. But generally speaking, where the bulk of the work is on the judges and the members of the judiciary. Most of them, very, very sizable number of them still write in longhand. This has a way of slowing down the pace of justice and has a way of, creating a lag in terms of the number of cases that are dealt, that comes into the judicial system and are dealt with year in, year out. In every legal year, you see heads of court, Court of Appeal, Supreme Court, High Courts, Federal High Court, National Industrial Court. They come out to give analysis of how many cases were filed and how many of them were able to be treated and got to the stage of judgment. The number is usually ridiculous, and one of those factors that are responsible is our lack of integration of tech into the judicial system. And I believe that the talk has been ongoing for some time now, and while we have seen some significant changes and some significant improvement in areas of jurisdiction like Lagos has really taken the lead and setting the pace in terms of the use of technology in judicial dispensation.
Interesting, but again, that's what makes it quite concerning. We're seeing very senior lawyers now, in particular, saying that look, there's no better time for us to adopt technology by way of advancing our work, our practice, and all of that. Is it just a talk shop, or are we seeing significant efforts. You mentioned Lagos. Yes, when it comes to things like this, practice direction and what have you, Lagos is always on the forefront. But in the case of Nigeria, people talk about internet penetration level that is still not really off the ground per se. They talk about cost of it, cost of data, overall cost of access to the internet. They talk about power situation, and things like that. So how do we, if you like, speed things up a little and meet up with the speed of the globe as it stands today?
Yes, as it stands, we're already seeing conversations at legal forums and workshops and training talking about AI, talking about technology. AI being the next big thing or being the current big things. I've seen a couple of them, talk shows and seminars and workshops and webinars alike organized by the Nigerian Bar Association, organized by several stakeholders in the legal and judicial industry, to educate and train and equip lawyers and judges and key stakeholders in the industry on how to use some of this stuff, the technological stuff like AI and the new technologies. For me, I would say we're evolving actually, but the pace is just a little bit slower. Right. It's not as geometric as we want it. We're taking one step at a time, but then it is not really addressing the core issues. Because just like I said earlier, with the advancement of technology, you can take a case you can start and finish a case within the space of 2-3 months. And very interestingly, I think I had for the first time and recently I handled the matter before Honorable Justice Omatosho of the Federal High Court.
You have to say that with a smile.
Yes. And the speed with which my Lord handled the matter was quite interesting, because whenever we're in the court, he doesn't write in longhand. Proceedings are taken, they're automated.
Digitally.
Digitally and recorded. And so that lag is able to cater for it. And
right.
Before you know, we have been able to deal with the pre-trial and trial issue. We're able to adopt, and the matter has been reserved for judgment. I filed the matter in September, and just last week, the matter has been reserved for judgment, so which is quite impressive. And this is the kind of judiciary we want to see.
Right.
The Federal High Court leading that pace, leading that charge, is something that is quite impressive, and it's something we want to see in all our courts, especially at the grassroots level. And when we say grassroots level, it is the magistrate courts, the area courts, the district courts. That is where the bulk of the case starts from. So we need to have and infuse this technology at that level. It is only when it gets to that level you can begin to see the change. The changes can now begin to trickle down up onto the Supreme Court, because if the inferior courts, so to say, the inferior courts of record, or inferior courts have already integrated technology, superior courts of record will have no other choice
other than to follow suit.
Yeah, that's the position.
You look across Europe today, look across the US, Canada, you see how everything is automated, digitized. Lawyers are called to the bar digitally. You're somewhere in one city, the authorities calling you to the bar are in a different city, and the whole thing is done, remotely. And it's pretty much the same thing as doing it on site. We've seen that happen. But in the case of Nigeria, we hear things like, most of these judges are not from this generation. They are not Gen Z oriented, so to speak, and things like that. Do you see that becoming a clog in the wheel of progress, in the manner of speaking?
Yes, it does have its own subtleties, so to say. Most of the judges or most of the senior members of the profession, the custodians of the profession, are usually conservatives. But in the recent time, we have seen, the tech has continuously been a growing concern, and has continuously generated the interest of even the old ones. And so I won't be surprised if in a no distant future we are able to do that kind of call to bar ceremony virtually. Of course, just as we all know, COVID-19 came to disrupt a lot of things, and We are still for the first time we are able to incorporate virtual hearings, and virtual hearings have come to stay, because there are occasions where, as a lawyer, you are not in the same city with your client.
What do you do?
Yeah, you just need to tell the court, apply that, my lord, I'm applying for a virtual hearing. And there's virtually no courts, even up to the grassroots court, the inferior courts, the magistrate courts, district courts, the area courts. There's a certain level of allowance for you to do virtual hearing. So these are some of the things we're talking about when we're saying we have high hopes that the judiciary is not going to be left behind, or the legal space is not going to get left behind. And of course, on the part of lawyers too, you have not engaged on that. On the part of lawyers too, there's also a need for lawyers to scale up and stay ahead of the curve because of the so-called AI things. I won't be surprised if after some time, the role of a lawyer is beginning to be reduced to AI, and although we are not threatened in the legal profession, because it's quite a noble profession and it's quite a hands-on profession. It's not something that you can really do, without the physical.
So touch. Human factor is indispensable.
Yes, it's almost indispensable in the legal profession, and so. But as much as be that as it may, lawyers need to stay ahead of the curve, and all other key stakeholders in the legal and judicial space or industry needs to continue to apply and reapply themselves, learn and relearn in terms of latching onto the advantages of technology.
No doubt, you have established very brilliant perspectives regarding this conversation, but technology is not cheap anywhere in the world, right? For years, you're a lawyer, obviously you follow these developments. The autonomy for judiciary has been a very big issue in this country. How that's, as it were, the judiciary needs to have, for want of better words, latitude over its own resources, its own funding, just the way you have with the executive and things like that. If we don't have autonomy for the judiciary, can we really do all of these things, or it's just going to be same old, same old?
Yes, the autonomy is very key, and in fact, it is almost like a live wire towards achieving all that we have been saying. Because if the judiciary is not autonomous, there's no way it can advance. There's no way it can scale. And so it is a very, very key ingredient towards achieving the stage that we want to see, or the advancement that we want to see in terms of our judiciary, adopting and infusing itself with the pecs of technology.
Interesting. All right. So it's at this point I want to take a break, everyone. There's so much to unpack regarding this conversation. Let's maximize the limited time we have after this break to look at ethical concerns around not just technology as a whole, but artificial intelligence in particular, again, in specific as it has to do with electronic evidence. Stay with us. All right, for the next few minutes, let me take you on regarding ethical issues. Now, you already talked extensively about AI and other aspects of technology. But every time I talk to lawyers about the Evidence Act, they talk about quite a number of complications, intricacies, and what have you. With these advancements in technology, how much of further disruption do you see within judiciary? Because whether you like it or not, we're going to have issues, maybe amongst other things, trial within trial, where you bring a piece of evidence and the court says, well, we have to double check this, and some sort of extensive procedures are introduced and things like that. Is this a blessing in disguise again, or is it a case of a curse and a blessing altogether?
For me, I would not call it rather a blessing or a curse, but I see it as a a necessary thing, so to say. And talking about the disruptions, we have seen in the latest Evidence Act, the latest has done some level of improvement in terms of making computer-generated evidences more admissible. It recognizes e-signature, e-filing, and e-affidavit system. It's quite interesting, and this is what we're talking about. That you see, as the times are changing, our laws too are evolving to address the changing times too. So. And the other part of your question is on the ethical aspect of it. Of course, there are places where we have to draw the lines, where you begin to draw the lines because you begin to talk about issues of discipline, issues of privacy, confidentiality, and especially on this issue of AI, you might have to share certain information with the AI. Those information are considered confidential and privileged information that is supposed to stay within you and your client. So these are some of the ethical considerations that has been begging questions and attention from the legal space. And interestingly, it is being addressed, and I think lawyers as professionals are beginning to know and realize where to draw the lines. So for me, I see the disruption is quite a blessing, of course, and it can also be a cause when it comes to identity theft. Becomes very easy, unauthorized access to the database of between a third party can interfere in between the court records and whatever you store on the online. Generally, the challenges that comes with integration into the e-space and integration into technology and AI, definitely it comes with its challenge. But being a law not being static, law being something that adheres to change and comes to address the changing times. So we are hopeful and we are full of faith that we are going to be able to address those issues as they rear their head. We'll continue to be able to be proactive and not be reactive. We are hoping that we'll be able to be proactive and not reactive. Because I said that because you see the last Evidence Act, it took some time before it was. It took some time after after much cause for it that there's a need for us to recognize we are no longer in the paper age. This is now so there's a need for us to accommodate the meanings of documents that are not, the economy is shifting to the paperless economy, and so we need evidences and transactions that are recorded in the digital space need to be admissible in the quest to seek for justice and to seek for judicial adjudication on some of these transactions. So, and the Evidence Act finally came, and we're happy about it.
Let's talk about regulatory demands. You also talked about how that the law is not static, it's dynamic, it has to be reviewed from time to time and things like that. But now to the issue of regulation, we have the NCC, the Nigerian Communications Commission, for example. We have a couple of other agencies. Of course, there's a ministry that oversees the NCC as well as other, if you like, parastatals of the federal government. Talk to us about the importance of interagency collaboration. I mean, if you like, maybe intersectoral collaboration, because we're talking about the judiciary now. The judiciary does not have, the capacity to drive tech all by itself. So it's going to need some help, quote unquote. How do we address that from where you stand?
For me, I think it goes without saying that the government agencies definitely has to work hand in hand to see that we achieve this. There are so many government agencies that are directly in charge. It's the Ministry of Information, Communication, the NCC, recently the Nigerian Data Protection Council, and so many government agencies. Of course, they are all. The good thing is they are all. Most of them are, creation of the statutes, creation of the law. Yeah. So where the functions and duties of this particular agency stop is where the other ones begins. And so we begin to see that, you see, the network of all government interagency communication or collaboration or, cooperation is going to bring about the change that we are looking for. The judiciary must not see itself as a loner when it comes to, integrating tech. Neither should some of these individual government agencies or the ministries or departments of government should also see themselves as the sole key stakeholders or drivers. No, it has to be a network of deliberate planning or deliberate concerted concert. They have to be in concert. The concerted efforts have to be put in place for us to achieve this, these delightful advantages of tech that we're really having a conversation about.
Let's talk about building from the ground up. Now we're talking about those who are already in practice. What should we or have been doing already regarding those who are still in school studying law, for example? Because there should be a way of teaching substantially tech alongside law, basically, so that you don't have to jump into the industry before you even start to learn how that there's some sort of confluence between tech and law.
Yes, there have always been, for as long as I know, there have always been a call for Nigeria legal education to be as clinical as it can be. And for me personally, I also share that view and that opinion that, you see, legal education is not like the regular education. We are seeing potential lawyers, we are seeing the future of the profession. And so as much as possible, we must, fuse them with some of these skills and needed ability and, expertise that they are going to need to excel in their practice. And so the issue of tech, for me, I would say I enjoyed a little bit of this because I think right from my 100 level, my lecturers give us, when I was in the University of Ilorin, the Better by Far University, so to say, our lecturers give us assignments and access to submit via mail. We even have some of our lecturers who say, hey, I will not be able to attend today, let's do. Now, this is post-COVID. Lecturers will say, okay, we'll do virtual class today. And so some of these things some of these, strategies and some of these initiatives will go a long way into shaping the kind of practice the incoming lawyers, the potential lawyers would come to meet. And of course, there's also the issue of, moot and mock, moot courts, competitions where back in the days where we used to crisscross. As an undergraduate, I remember I crisscrossed this country, went to different universities, different faculties of law to do moot competition and debate competition. With the advent of technology now, some of these competitions, the costs can be greatly reduced, and we can have these competitions online, and it will still have the impact, and it will still instill the ethical and advocacy skills that we are looking to infuse the younger generation of lawyers or the incoming generation of lawyers with. And especially it has even become imperative in the light of the security challenges of the country, where you can no longer we can no longer travel by road or whatever means. You have to always watch your back. I recently read today that one of the lawyers who was recently picked up by kidnappers was released earlier today. He left after his call to bar, and that takes me back to what obtains in the European climb that I've alluded to earlier. You see, that sort kind of person now wouldn't have needed to travel all the way from whatever state he was going to go and be called to bar if some of these technological advancements have been in place, and you can be called wherever you are. You don't need to be there physically. So some of this technological, just like where the conversation has been, is going to be disruptive, and we can't afford to get left behind.
Right. So lastly, do you see the private sector playing a role in all of this, and what exactly would that role be?
Yes, the private sector has a huge role to play because lawyers are usually the ones that will handle the legal jargons and what does the law says. But we need tech specialists, the private companies, contractors that will drive some of these changes, that will install some of these gadgets and devices, the automation devices that we need in our courts. We still need them to train lawyers and retrain lawyers on how to interface and interact with this device. So definitely it has to be a public-private partnership for us to get to where we are. And I want to use this opportunity to also say that the judiciary too and heads of courts are encouraged to seek PPP-based projects to see that we deliver some of these initiatives that the technology is bringing.
Mohammed Abdulazeez, I'd like to say a big thank you to you for coming to share with us on this very important subject. Well, that's what we're living. It's everyone, tech and legal practice now go hand in hand. It appears there's nothing so much we can do about that. It's the reality in front of us, and going forward, that's how it stays. Again, thank you for watching. On behalf of my entire production team here at Global Television's world headquarters in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, I am Uyi Agmofwegbe. Our broadcast continues.